We all have that one place from our childhood, a secret spot in the woods where the world felt small and safe. But what if the place wasn't finished with you? Tonight, we follow Sam back to Pine Ridge. He went looking for nostalgia, but he found something that had been waiting 3 years to wear the face of his best friend. If you're watching this alone, make sure your doors are locked. Because sometimes the person waving you into the woods isn't a person at all. This is The Woods at the Pine Ridge, a true story of the lure. My name is Sam. After 3 long years, I finally went back. The climb up Pine Ridge Hill had left me drained. My chest heaved, lungs burning with every gasp of the thin mountain air. To my left, the sun was sinking fast, bleeding shades of bruised orange and gold across a sky choked with grey clouds. I still had light, but the shadows were growing long, and in the woods, shadows are never just shadows. I had to stop twice to keep my heart from exploding. Even at the base of the trail, I could see how much the wilderness had reclaimed. The old paved path was a jagged maze of cracked asphalt and weeds. The trees, once small and neatly planted, had grown into a dense, suffocating wall. Their branches arched overhead like skeletal fingers locking together in a silent guard of honor. When I was a kid, this hill was our playground. There was no trail back then. We'd scramble up the dirt, racing each other, our laughter echoing off the rocks. But today, my body protested every step. Sweat stung my eyes, and the sound of my own raspy breathing was the only thing I could hear. Finally, I reached the plateau. A sudden sharp breeze whipped across the ridge, drying the sweat on my neck and sending a violent shiver down my spine. To the right, the path led to the old Wayfarer's Chapel. I could see the steeple poking through the trees, but I knew it would be crowded with tourists. I wanted solitude. I wanted the old woods. To my left lay a dense shadowy rise that the park rangers had officially closed off. A rusted barbed wire fence stood in my way, but nostalgia is a powerful drug. I remembered sneaking past this exact spot with my best friend Daniel. We had a secret shrine down by a cluster of boulders beneath a massive centuries-old oak. Without thinking, I slipped through a gap in the wire. The wind began to howl, a low, mournful sound that seemed to vibrate in my bones. The deeper I went, the more the woods seemed to press in. My legs carried me faster, almost as if the ground itself were sloping toward the oak tree. Suddenly, I heard voices. I spun around. Far back on the main trail, I saw a group of hikers. They were tiny figures against the sunset, but they were waving their arms frantically. They were screaming something at me, their voices distorted by the wind. It felt wrong, the way they were jumping, the desperation in their gestures, but I shook it off. Probably just tourists worried about the trespasser, I thought. I pushed deeper into the dark. The woods went dead silent. No birds, no crickets, just the wind. Finally, I saw it. The 2 great boulders stacked like ancient altars under the looming oak. My heart hammered against my ribs. A strange mix of childhood joy and adult dread. I climbed onto the rock, steadying myself as I looked down into the sheer black drop of the ravine below. I remembered the idol. It was just a small, flat stone we had painted with a red X and hidden in the tall grass on the ledge. Smiling, I knelt down, brushing aside the dry weeds to find it. That's when the temperature dropped. It wasn't just cold, it was freezing physical weight. Then a pair of hands, icy and unyielding, shoved me with terrifying force. My head slammed into the oak trunk. Stars exploded in my vision as I slid toward the edge of the ravine. At the last possible second, my fingers clawed into a jagged crack in the stone, saving me from the 100-foot drop. I gasped, my vision blurring. When it cleared, I saw the idol stone. It was sitting right there, marked with the faint weathered red stain which smeared on it as skits. Shaking, I struggled to stand. The hikers were close now, their screams finally reaching me. "Get away from there! Get back to the trail!" A hand fell on my shoulder. The grip was freezing. It felt like a bag of ice resting on my skin. I spun around, my breath hitching in my throat. "Daniel?" I whispered. My childhood friend stood there. He looked exactly the same as the day he moved away. He was smiling, but it was a stiff, uncanny smile that didn't reach his eyes. How are you here?" I stammered.
"I came to take you back, Sam,"
he said. His voice didn't sound like a voice at all. It was hollow, like wind whistling through a dead pipe. His eyes were wide, unblinking. My legs began to move on their own. I couldn't stop them. I was following him, walking toward the high, crumbling ridge over the ravine. Behind me, the hikers were still yelling, but their voices felt like they were coming from underwater. The only thing was real was Daniel. We reached the edge of the ridge. Daniel turned to face me, his grip tightening until I thought my collarbone would snap. Suddenly, from across the woods, the bells of the Wayfarers' Chapel began to ring. The sound hit me like a physical jolt. It broke the spell. My eyes dropped from Daniel's face down to his feet. My stomach turned over. His hiking boots were on the wrong legs. His toes were pointing behind him, his heels facing me. His ankles were twisted in a way that should have been impossible. I looked up. Daniel's face began to change. His pupils rolled upward, leaving nothing but two milky white voids. His jaw unhinged, stretching longer and longer until his mouth was a black pit. The chapel bells rang louder, joined by the faint, distant sound of a choir singing a hymn. My own voice joined in, a prayer spilling out of me by pure instinct. The hikers' voices finally broke through the static. "Run! Run, man, run!" Panic surged. I tore my arm free and bolted uphill, ignoring the agonizing snap in my ankle as I stumbled into a ditch. I crawled, clawing at the dirt as the thing that looked like Daniel began to shift. Its skin turned the color of wet coal, its limbs lengthening into spindly, insect-like shadows. It lunged for me with terrifying speed. Just as the hikers reached the fence, the figure stopped. It stood at the edge of the darkness, staring at us with those wide, empty eyes. And then, as the last bell tolled, it simply dissolved. It didn't run away. It faded into the night air like smoke. The hikers pulled me over the fence, their faces pale. "We tried to warn you. Locals won't go near Pine Ridge after sunset. This place is a lure. It takes a face you trust, and it leads you to the ledge. You are the first one we have seen come back," one woman said, her voice trembling. I couldn't speak. I just watched the woods. Later, sitting in the warm light of the chapel, drinking water offered by a concerned priest, I felt the phantom weight of those icy fingers still on my shoulder. I survived Pine Ridge, but I know that somewhere in those trees, Daniel, or the thing wearing his skin, is still waiting for me to finish our childhood race. Sam survived that night, but most people who follow a familiar face into the deep woods are never heard from again. There is a terrifying phenomenon in the US called Missing 411. Thousands of people disappearing in the national parks under impossible circumstances. Do you think Sam encountered a memory, Or something much more ancient? Have you ever seen someone you knew in a place they weren't supposed to be? Someone who looked just a little bit wrong? Let me know your stories in the comments. I'll be hearting the creepiest ones. Don't forget to subscribe for more true to life horror. Stay safe out there.